I think you bumped it a little when you got up, but you know, I'm gonna try not to be nervous, and I hope I haven't drank too much coffee. I am Joanna. I want to thank Pastor Marvin Norris and Betty and this lovely congregation for letting me share my testimony here at Amazing Life Church. And I want to thank Jesus. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened in my life and where I've come now and who has helped me. So I want to start by saying that when I was very young, I remember having these recurring nightmares that I was being chased by vampires or something. And it came to me to say the name Jesus, and I said the name Jesus in my prayer, in my dreams, and boom, I was brought out of it. And that's an experience. It was recurring. Now, I was not really brought up religious or anything, but that right there, at this point in my life, I look back on that and I'm like, he was just wanted to give me something, and it wasn't a religious thing, it wasn't a church thing, right? It was just something he gave me, because I've used that. There have been times in my life that I really was being chased by monsters, a variety of monsters, and I have called on his name, and I have been released from the grip of negative forces in a phenomenal way on several occasions. I want to tell you that I've done a lot of processing about my life and what I've done and my problems and how I created my problems and what I could do about them. And it seems like I have this pattern of behavior that, and God has shown me what I was doing and everything. When I was young, I used to, it was all about wanting to be loved, and I would always think about some boy that caught my fancy, and I would have little romantic fantasies, and it was one or another. It was an escape for me, because I was terribly shy. I was terribly nervous. I had not just anxiety attacks, but panic attacks, which are more severe than that. I was extremely insecure. I had no self-confidence, I just had a really messed up personality. And we moved a lot when I was a kid. I went to several different schools, and I had a really hard time. I didn't develop social skills. Like, you know, I'm an adopted only child, and I will tell you that I have the most loving mom and dad that anyone could have. So they did their best for me, but I was such a fragile and flaky person. But anyway, so what happened was always wanting to be loved, but there was no way that in reality I was ever going to, you know, have normal relationships. So I fantasized, and my imagination was very powerful. So I increasingly found satisfaction in my fantasy world, and I got deeper into that, deeper and deeper, until I actually, my sense of reality got very messed up. And I had some difficult experiences when I was a kid, being picked on and stuff, and it just made me go deeper into myself. And I'm not going to tell you every detail about my life, about, you know, school and everything, but what happened was I did well in school when I wasn't messing around with smoking pot and stuff like that. You know, I did well, but something was happening in my mind that I couldn't. There was no way I could understand it, and I couldn't explain it. But anxiety and depression got deeper in me. And I didn't understand about reality and being out of touch with reality. And I went from being on the honor roll in high school to to having to leave high school and barely passing the GED, and it was devastating to me. But at the time, what was happening to me mentally, I could not understand it. It was severe and it was horrible, and it wasn't long before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and psychosis. And they put me on some medication for that, which was nasty stuff. And it really didn't do much, but I was suicidal for a long time, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that. But during that time, I was curious about different spiritual teachings, and it seemed to me that no one was greater than Jesus, but it seemed like I had to kind of sample everything before I'd get around to the one that was the best. And I will tell you also that I have come to the conclusion that with mental illness, it has a lot to do with negative forces, you know, with the devil and spirits and stuff like that. And I will say that after I'd been in that state, in that horrible state mentally for a number of years, feeling pretty hopeless, I decided one day that I would take some alcohol and try to escape what I was feeling with the alcohol. And lo and behold, it actually gave me some relief to what I was going through. So even though I hated hangovers and I hated the humiliation of waking up the next morning wondering what kind of stupid thing I did when I came out of my shell the night before, and the troubles it caused at home and everything, it was the only thing that gave me relief. And so I did that. Caused a lot of grief to my family in the process, and one thing led to another, and I found a drug that seemed to do a lot for me. So I did that for a long time. It took me out of my reality. It took me out of the agony that I was in. It seemed like a solution. It seemed like the only way to deal with it. And there were times when I would get clean for a little while, and when I did, my mind was a riot. It was so crazy I couldn't deal with it. So I'd get back on whatever I was doing, just to level myself mentally. But obviously that way of life was no good. And it's a long story. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I got clean at one point. I was clean for a few years, and I did a lot of things to try and help myself, but I really wasn't focused on Jesus like I am now. It was like I kind of put him on the back burner, and there were a lot of different spiritual teachings that I thought were that inspired me and everything, but I think it was maybe the idea of religion, but I didn't understand that. I didn't realize how strong, how powerful it could be to have a relationship with him. But a few years ago, now I do want to tell you about my best friend Mo, who I met when I was out there, and we had a special friendship because usually in the drug world, you can't really keep a friend because the lifestyle is just so negative. But she and I, we both had this spirituality, and she's always been a Christian, and together we had a spiritual bond that remained strong in spite of what we were doing. And there were numerous times that we would just put our equipment and our substances to the side and get on our knees together and pray. And even knowing that we didn't have the strength to quit at that time, but we're just going to get on our knees regardless. And I remember one time when I was living somewhere else, it was actually the house where I met her for the first time. I was in my room by myself, and I was doing my thing, and the thought occurred to me to pray. And then I thought to myself, look at what I'm doing. This is no good. He doesn't want to hear from me. And when I thought that, I felt this presence, this love, And it was phenomenal, and it was like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, I love you. And it just penetrated all that shame and everything. And but it took me a long time to take action, do what I needed to do. Anyways, during that last period of a few years, I tried to have some kind of, I would pray, I would kind of cry out with my soul to the Lord from time to time, and I was aware of what I was doing, I was aware of how wrong it was, but I didn't have the strength to do what I needed to do. But I prayed that that the Lord would give me the strength. I had to get out of the environment I was in, and I considered going into treatment again, which I've done before, and it helped me in the past, but I just really felt deep that it was not going to help me this time. But if I got in a place where I could just get away from the people I knew down there and start again and put Jesus right in the center of my life, get a good church, you know, and do things that I know are good for me, and just create a new life, and that would be the way to go. So we took a leap of faith, the biggest power move of a lifetime, and came up here to Tennessee because Mo had connections of family up here and things like that. So we came up here, and you know, what a perfect place. Now, as far as finding a church, we tried a few different places, and one of our friends who's in recovery recommended Amazing Life, and I've been here since. We've been here since. Amazing Life and Pastor Marvin Norris have a way of making people feel welcome and loved, non-judgmental. You know, I want to tell you a little story to kind of give you a contrast. Mo and I were, we were, you know, checking out some different churches and stuff, and there was this one, and I'm not going to name it or anything, but we went to this one place, and when the preacher came to preaching, he gets up and gives this fiery sermon all about cigarette smoking and this and that, and how people are ruining their body temple and everything. I looked around at that crowd. It was all older people. I don't believe that a single one of them was a smoker. You know, they didn't look, but that all he could do was get up there and preach about people smoking and stuff. I'm like, what's the point? What, for lack of a spiritual message? I don't know. But it's not like that here. You know, Marvin preaches, he teaches about the love of Jesus and about including people, not shutting people out or judging, you know. So this has been an amazing experience here. Amazing Life Church. I don't know what I'm going to do. I hope I can find something anywhere near as good when I go to Florida. So I'm, you know, moving back to Florida, and my mom, and we'll see my mom in a few days, and hopefully she'll be able to watch this soon. And I don't know, I want to say a little more about that seeking love, you know, because when I was, you know, I had a pattern of behavior my whole life of becoming infatuated. When I fantasized, my fantasies would be like the person worshiping me, you know, because it was sick, it was selfish. See, the Lord enables me to see how sick I was and how wrong I was. Now, it's like I give, you know, I want to give, you know, I'm learning to receive and learning to give, and it's a slow process because I just never knew how, you know. But as far as schizophrenia and psychosis, they're going the same way addiction went, you know. And I can't tell you how good Jesus is to me. After I'd been clean for a year, I decided to enroll in community college here. It's like nothing to lose, just see what would happen. And I really didn't know what would happen because I'm, you know, my mind, between, you know, the breakdown I had in high school and not being able to function mentally like that, and you know, God knows what damage I've done to myself with all the chemicals and everything. I'm going to make a long story short. I graduated about a month ago, with a 4.0 GPA.
Amen.
And I can only give the Lord credit for that. Only He can take credit for that. I can't take credit for that. But it was a wonderful experience, and I'm feeling like I keep asking Him if He wants me to continue with school. And I think, you know, I started out wanting to major in psychology, and I kind of got bored with it at the community college here. But now I'm feeling, if I do continue school, to major in that, because it just makes sense that the thing that I have experience with would be my field, you know. Anyways, whatever I do, it's got to be for the service of the Lord, and to use my experience to try and help people. And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to God, to Jesus. I'm so grateful to all of you people here. You know, this has been a love thing. I'm grateful to Marvin and Betty and everyone here. And with that, I'll stop. Coffee's getting cheap.
We're going to do this again Sunday, but let's gather around her and pray for her that God,
You want this stopped right now?
whatever you think, baby.
Shaky, more shaky. So